Good evening. Welcome to the August 29th Legislative and Administrative Committee meeting. If you can all stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
The flag of the United States of America.
Thank you. We have a roll call, please?
Joseph Pifko,
Here.
Mike Buswell,
Here.
Steve Lemoyne, Veronica Lenzen.
Here.
Jason Marsh.
Here.
Ashley Guardiano.
Here.
Tony Cinto. And Nicole Satin.
Thank you. With that said, can we bring the first resolution, TC 3078, to the floor? Mr. Marsh, can you bring it forward, please?
Certainly. Resolution TC 30-78. Be it resolved. Sorry. No, I'm on the right page. Yeah. All right. Be it resolved. Whereas the town of Trumbull has developed and received conditional approval from the Federal Emergency Management Agency (FEMA) for its Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2024 under the requirements of 44 CFR 201.6, and whereas adoption of this plan update will make the town of Trumbull eligible for funding to alleviate the impacts of future hazards. Full resolution attached.
Second.
I understand Megan Sloan is here to speak to this.
Push the button on the microphone.
My colleague, Nick Dostal, Regional Planner with MetroCog, will be leading the discussion.
All right. How's it going? All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Dostal. I'm a Regional Planner at the Metropolitan Council of Governments. That's MetroCog for short. That's one of the many acronyms I'll be throwing at you tonight. I'm here with my Planning Director, Megan Sloan, who's been the driving force behind the multi-jurisdictional Natural Hazard Mitigation Plan update for 2024. This plan is updated once every 5 years, so it was last approved in Trumbull in 2019. The NHMP, as we call it for short, is primarily aimed at reducing the loss of life, personal injury, and damage to property, infrastructure, and natural, cultural, and economic resources from natural disasters. The plan also includes the town of Trumbull, City of Bridgeport, and the towns of Easton, Monroe, Fairfield, and Stratford. Adoption of the plan makes Trumbull eligible for certain mitigation grant funding administered by FEMA, and also ensures continued participation for the town of Trumbull in FEMA's community rating system, which provides a 10% discount to certain flood insurance policyholders in Trumbull. Throughout the development of the plan, MetroCog worked with Trumbull staff, including the Public Works, Engineering, Planning, and Emergency Management departments. This collaboration identified actions and strategies that will reduce vulnerability to a variety of natural hazards. MetroCog hosted 2 public meetings in partnership with Trumbull, Easton, and Monroe. These were held in September 2023 and June 2024 for public input and guidance on the plan. An online survey was also available for additional input, as well as the 30-day public comment period from May 29th to June 28th, 2024, which provided the opportunity for public review and comment on the draft plan. We appreciate the input that Trumbull stakeholders, staff, and residents have put into this plan, and we are happy to provide answers to any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the committee? Mr. Cinto.
What changes were made from 2019 until today?
Me to answer that?
We can combine forces. So there were a variety of changes. Some priorities were shifted around to reflect developments over time. With the plan itself, there's been the addition of extreme heat and extreme cold, which was previously unaccounted for in 2019, and they have their whole new sections in this new plan. I'll let Megan take over.
Nick answered it very well. There were additional FEMA requirements too that we had to we had to provide, such as climate change, that was a requirement. So there was more attention paid to that.
There any other questions from the floor? Yes.
Through the chair. I'm just curious how much public comment and input you got through those 2 meetings.
We had one attendee from, thank you.
There you go.
We had one attendee from Trumbull at the first meeting.
Okay.
I think the survey, we got a bit more input. I really have to give a shout out to Trumbull staff, though. We had some very concerned citizens from other towns at both meetings, and they were very patient and really good listeners to the out of Trumbull residents. So I just have to provide that appreciation.
Okay. Thank you.
Also, with the survey, I believe there were several dozen, or at least somewhere around there, inputs from Trumbull, and that not only included answers to the given survey questions, but qualitative answers relating to their personal experiences with natural hazards in Trumbull.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, hearing none. Call for a vote to move this to town council. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. All right. The next resolution, Mr. Buswell, will you bring resolution TC 30-84 to the floor, please?
Certainly. Resolution TC 34-84, be it resolved that Chapter 17-Streets, Sidewalks, and Highways of the Trumbull Municipal Code is hereby amended to include Section 17-98, removal of snow, ice, and rubbish from sidewalks and other properties. Public hearing September 5th, 2024, Town Council.
Second.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak to this?
Through the chair, I can start if that works. Is that all right? So first of all, I was told George Estrada can't be here tonight because it's his anniversary. So happy anniversary to George. But we don't have him tonight, which may change kind of how we approach this. A few months ago, George held kind of a meeting opportunity at Public Works where we could go tour the space. I know that there were some members of your caucus there and there were some of ours. And one of the things he highlighted was the sidewalk and ice and snow clearing and the challenges around the ability to get to all of the sidewalks in town to clear them, the liability that exists there, and simultaneously that as we talk about increasing walkability and building new sidewalks in town, there simply isn't the ability to clear more sidewalks than we already have. And he referenced some other municipalities' legislation that they have in place, placing the ownership or the burden of clearing snow and ice on the homeowner rather than on the town. And that is one way, he referenced that as one way to get around the liability and to begin building more sidewalks. And so we spent a few months going back and forth around other municipal codes and other examples. And the vast majority, I mean, Attorney Shopik can certainly speak to this too, but the vast majority of municipalities in our area have the onus placed on homeowners to clear sidewalks and not on the town. We're actually kind of inverse from what everybody is. So we put this together. I think that it is ripe for conversation. Again, I'm bummed George can't be here this evening, but understand why he's not. But the point of doing this was to get us talking about something that our Director of Public Works highlighted as a major challenge in clearing snow and building sidewalks moving forward. And whether we're ready to pass it now or not, whether we want to keep it in committee until we can hear from George, that's why this came about this evening. And I'm hoping that it's a starting place for us to at least have a conversation about what George sees as needs and how we can address some of those needs. Dan, do you have anything to add to that? Or Vicki, certainly.
Thank you. I would just say The way the statute is written, the municipality is responsible unless we have a local ordinance that makes the homeowner responsible. But every community that I'm aware of makes the homeowner responsible. I remember as a kid going out and having to shovel the sidewalk. I'm sure a lot of others of you who didn't grow up in Trumbull remember the same thing. And at the time that we started the sidewalk program here in Trumbull, again, it was felt that the way to get it off the ground was for the town to remain responsible for shoveling. One thing we have to remember from a liability point of view is that if the town is affirmatively responsible for the removal, that and then we don't remove the snow, then we do have liability issues. So this would shift that liability issue to the homeowner, which is a economic positive. Well, these are covered by insurance, but it falls back to the town ultimately.
On the insurance issue, not having grown up in a town with sidewalks, so this is kind of foreign to me. I understand the shifting of responsibility and liability, but does a homeowner need to affirmatively contact their homeowner's insurance company and say, I now am responsible for a portion of property that I wasn't previously responsible? I'm curious whether there's going to be a possible gap in coverage.
I would doubt it. I think your homeowner's insurance, I haven't looked at my homeowner's insurance, I haven't looked at your homeowner's insurance, but generally speaking, the homeowner's insurance covers whatever you might be liable for, the liability portion of your policy. There might be, even I would guess, without knowing, that if somebody fell on the sidewalk in front of your house and you have it hasn't been shoveled, they're probably going to sue you and sue the town at the same time. And I would guess that your insurance company would, as it stands today, that your insurance company would defend, but they would then in turn throw the responsibility over to the town.
Well, from a legal standpoint, who owns the sidewalk at this point? Is it the town's property or is it the homeowner's property?
Well, it's on the town right away.
Right. So I mean, we're getting into a metaphysical insurance discussion here, but I'm just curious and concerned that it's a little bit more complicated than just saying you're now responsible homeowner, and the homeowner's either not understanding what that means, or the insurance company's not being on the same page, and there is that hypothetical accident, and the homeowner doesn't get coverage, and now they're personally liable for something that they should have coverage for, but they don't, or there's a denial of coverage.
We can reach out to a couple of insurance companies to see if they can give us an answer, but I would expect that it's like saying, if somebody falls down your stairs, it's
right, but I know
covered.
that they're my stairs.
Yes.
If I don't know that that's my sidewalk and I don't insure for it, or I don't have enough coverage, or the insurance, or the insurance company says, when you took out the policy, there was no sidewalk there. Now there's a sidewalk there because it was newly constructed. You never told us that. So we're going to deny coverage because you didn't update your policy.
Well, as I say, I don't see it as a problem, but we can reach out to a couple of carriers and see what their response would be. We can certainly ask the town's carrier what their response would be.
Okay.
Through the chair. So my wondering was not about existential sidewalks and insurance, but I agree with you that we do need to question that because insurance companies will do whatever they can to hold us accountable. But my question is, if you have a sidewalk that abuts the road and the town plows the sidewalk, plows the street, and the snow is now thrown onto the sidewalk after you've cleaned it, and now you have to go out and shovel what was once natural snow that occurred, but is now not natural because a plow put it there. Who's responsible for clearing that, and how are we going to hold a homeowner responsible for that? And I don't expect anyone to answer me at this moment, but I do think it's something that's food for thought as we go forward in having this conversation, because we specify natural occurring snow, and that's not natural occurring, and where do we make that dividing line of,
Well, the snow itself is natural occurring.
but it getting onto the sidewalk won't be natural at that point. It's just, I think it's something that needs to be thought about, and if there's an answer, that's fine, but I do think that we need to think of that additional liability that we're placing on homeowners who are dutifully clearing their sidewalk, but then the plow goes by. We already have to deal with our driveways. I can't imagine what 200 or 300 feet of sidewalk is going to add.
And what
to that
happens
burden.
if the town pushes snow back on your driveway?
Well, you have to move it, but now it's the driveway and the sidewalk. If you live in an area where you have I mean, I don't have a sidewalk. I live in, but I know people who do, and
Yeah, I
to
can
say
tell you
nothing
what-
of the age of
my-
a person who has to deal with it.
I
But
can tell you my own personal experience, having grown up in towns that where you had to clean your sidewalk, is if the town plow put it back on the sidewalk, went out again and shoveled. So
I just
nobody
think it's
thought
something
about
we
it.
need to consider.
Through the chair, has any consideration been given to circumstances where exemptions might be applicable? Elderly residents, physically disabled residents, those who can't do or afford to have done for them.
not in this particular ordinance. Maybe Ashley can.
Well, I would say we've certainly thought about that, right? I mean, that's been a topic of conversation of what do you do and how do you deal with that to make this something that's not put on somebody who can't manage it, right? We've talked about things like, do you provide kind of a 1-year phase in so that people can get themselves prepared and it's not something that's. Are you good, Tony? Am I good? Am I good to go or not? It's just a question. I didn't know if you were saying something. I-
You're monopolizing on the time.
I am? Councilman Lesden just spoke and Councilman Marsh just spoke.
Let's
And I was
understand
asked a question.
the
I'm ready.
Hang on
the
here.
ordinance was submitted by Councilman Guardiano.
Yeah,
So this is her resolution.
Councilman Guardiano has the floor now. Please go ahead.
So all I was saying was that we have talked about the fact that that could be an issue for seniors and disabled, and that we need to at least have a conversation about how do you handle that. In all of the ordinances that I looked at in other communities, there were no exemptions or carve-outs for any specific population. So there's a little bit of we've talked about it. We're bringing this here so that we can talk through possible solutions for those certain populations, but no surrounding towns are doing anything to address any specific populations as exemptions. Doesn't mean we shouldn't, but it just means that it's not happening in other communities.
I have a question. You sound as though you've done some research on this, and I appreciate that. So when they say to clear the sidewalk, do they clear a passable path on the sidewalk, or do they have to clear it, end to end, width to width? Because there's a big difference between getting by and cleaning, a 4-foot wide or a 3-foot wide sidewalk, 300 feet long.
So I would say that the ordinances range in the kind of depth that they go into. Most that I saw don't have anything around, passable versus clear the whole thing side to side. I think that's an example of where we could put language in that says, right, rather than like no natural accumulation shall be permitted to remain on the sidewalks, we could add language in that says something like clear a passable, right, or walkable path. Now that's up for interpretation too, just as much, but at least it's not absolutely no snow may remain on a sidewalk. It gives a little bit of wiggle room for how much you need to clear. But the one that we put forward is much lighter than some, right? I mean, I provided Dan with snow sidewalk removal ordinances that were like 8 pages long, right? Because they have so much detail to them. And I'm happy to, if we end up saying we want to hold this in committee, which I think is a logical thing to do, I'm happy to share some of the other resolutions from other communities if people are interested in seeing what other towns have done.
I can see that there's a burden being placed on the homeowner but I also understand that the whole purpose of a sidewalk is for public safety, that you're not walking on the road, you're walking on a sidewalk. And during a snowstorm, the last place you want people to be walking is on a slippery road which is already narrowed by the snow. So it's a conundrum here in that, it's the sidewalk's there for safety, and that's when you most need it, yet that is placing a burden on the homeowner to move it. So there's a, it's a conundrum. It really is. And I understand, but I do also understand that, most towns do have the passage, and if you live on a corner in a major area, you get the front and the side, anywhere that there's sidewalks, so it could really add up to hundreds and hundreds of feet. Madam First Selectman, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you.
You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Just a point of clarification for everybody. So just about the process here. As Councilman Gaudiano said, there was a meeting down at Public Works. I didn't attend that meeting. I'm not sure who else did. You were there. So there was a conversation, obviously, with George Estrada and the issues that the Public Works Department faces trying to clear off all the sidewalks and make them safe. And that's where this is emanating from. So just for clarification purposes, we're bringing this forward. And I think that there's been some discussion of this over the years anyways, because of the concern, and it is a concern, that they can't clean all the sidewalks and make them clear and safe for people to walk on. Now, again, I think based on what Councilman Gaudiano said, I would also agree that perhaps it should be held in committee. There's a lot of questions here. I met with George Estrada. I met with Mike Lombardo. We have questions about the implementation of this policy, and what Ashley said as well about whether we have a waiting period so people, because you can't it could snow the 1st of November. Who knows, right? And people won't know because it's very hard to communicate, as we know, anything with people. So we'd have to make sure that we communicate this change so people are aware that now the burden is on the homeowner to clean the sidewalk. And there's a lot of other questions, I think, that need to be vetted through the committee process. And I think this is a good opportunity to let that happen. Right, to just talk about it, talk about the questions. I think we should need to bring the chief in. I think we need to bring George Estrada in when he can come and he's not celebrating his anniversary, and so we can talk about all these issues. I have a whole host of questions myself that I posed as well. So just clarification of how this came to be and how we should handle it. But I think we should be cognizant of the fact that winter's coming, and we're going to be faced with these issues again. If we should see some snow this year, maybe we just won't. Right. So anyways, just wanted to add a little background. So if you have any questions to me, glad to answer them as well.
Are there any questions for the First Selectman?
I just had one, Vicky. And I know it's hard on everybody and they work long days, but my only recommendation would be to maybe try to host some of these meetings in the early evening. I believe that the George Estrada meeting, that was either during the week in the morning or on the weekend.
Well, I didn't call that meeting.
No, I'm just saying, we'd get more participation
would,
if we maybe did an early evening. That's all I would suggest moving forward. Yeah, I remember seeing that email, and I would have liked to do it. But
well, he'd be more than happy to see anybody at any time, so just call him.
Yeah.
He's willing to talk anytime. I'm not sure when that meeting was.
I think it was a Saturday morning,
It was
maybe.
like right after we got elected, and he invited us all down.
And he invited people down,
Yeah.
and then he said he was happy to
And it was just
do-
us. It wasn't
Because
like,
we
town.
had to watch how many people each caucus put forward anyways to make sure we didn't hit quorum numbers.
Also true.
And so I know he said he was happy to do another one because we couldn't all be present anyways for numbers' sake.
Since my mic is green, through the chair. Ashley, thank you for all of the research that you did. It's appreciated. Obviously, I agree with First Selectman Tesoro and you that there are more questions that need to be answered. If appropriate, I would make a motion that we keep this. No? Okay, well, I could make the motion and we could talk about it, but okay, I'll wait. Never mind. I take it back. I won't make a motion.
All right. Chair recognizes Mr. Cinto.
Coming from a town that had sidewalks, What do you tell an elderly 82-year-old lady who has a house or a man who has a 1,000-foot sidewalk with 12 inches of snow on it? That's my first question. Second question is, if the sidewalk's damaged, it caves in, the tar breaks, there's a pothole in it, who's responsible for it then? And I have reason for asking this question because it happened. What happens? If the sidewalk collapses,
I think this is an opportunity that we will talk about all those questions. And I think we grew up in the same town, did we not?
yes.
We grew up in Norwalk.
Right.
Right, and nobody cleaned our sidewalks, we did. I don't know who cleaned yours.
Well, I
right?
could tell you this, where my mother is, she has 1,000 feet of sidewalk. Okay? And I don't think it's been plowed, I don't think it's been shoveled in 40 years. So, what are you going to do? Go up? Who's going to patrol that? You're going to send out the public works. Hey, you didn't cite your site. It's a $50 fine. There's no way you can police this.
We understand your
This
comments.
is the
We
worst
do.
thing ever thought of right now.
Well, that you're entitled to your opinion, Councilman. You are. Why can't the council in a committee, which is what these committees are for, discuss this further? That's all we're saying. We brought a suggestion forward from our Department of Public Works director, and this is an opportunity. This is what we do. Is discuss these matters, or should discuss these matters in a public session, and certainly the public will be more than willing to comment, or I'm sure people are more than willing to comment, some people, and we'd like to hear from them. So I'm not going to go any further. I'll let you guys continue to discuss this.
It's quite apparent that the people that can answer these questions aren't here tonight, and we need a lot more discussion on this, and more of a working session on this. Veronica, you started to make a motion?
I was just going to make a motion that we maintain this in committee and not put it forth to council.
Okay. All in favor?
We need a second first. Ashley's seconding.
Okay.
Thanks, Ashley.
Okay. All in favor? Okay. The motion passes. It's held in committee.
Chairman Pifko,
Yes.
does it make sense to invite George and the chief to our next committee meeting to hold kind of a second round of
Yes.
a working session?
Yes.
Okay.
I agree with that.
Yes.
All right. Even if
And
we need
can
to
you-
hold
and
it
you can
again.
pass these questions that we posed today
Yes.
Yeah.
onto him.
Yeah, our
so that-
our goal here in holding it in committee is to hold it in committee and get the answers, not to bury it. I mean, it needs to be discussed, and the people that need to answer, or are capable of answering the questions, aren't here tonight. So let's, it'll also give them some time to get some answers together, and also for us to formulate more questions, of which there are many. All right? Is there any other business on the floor? With that, I'll call for a vote to close the meeting. All in favor? Meeting's closed. Thank you.
Hello, welcome to the Finance Committee meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence.
Indivisible, liberty.
Mark, can you take the roll, please?
Anthony Dorsey. Tony Sinto.
Here.
John Foreman.
Here.
Ann Sather.
Here.
Kevin Shively.
Here.
Nicole Satin. Richard Wolf. Mary Isaac. Here.
Hi. Councilman Sitter, can you read Resolution TC 30-77, please?
Resolution TC 30-77, resolution with respect to the authorization, issuance, and sale of not exceeding $25 million Town of Trumbull General Obligation Refunding Bonds, full resolution attached.
Second. Thank you. I think Maria's here.
Great of you.
Good evening.
Microphone.
Sorry. Sure. This is an authorization to refinance $25 million in current bonds that are callable to refinance at a lower interest rate. This is not new money. These are old bonds that we're just refinancing. We are not extending the term of the bonds, and the savings could be between $600,000 and $700,000 net of financing costs. Questions?
Questions? Go ahead.
What is the time frame? If the interest rates go down, is there a time frame between when we approve this and then when it goes through, that if the rate changes any further, that we can benefit, or?
The rate's already accounted
Set?
for here in this savings. They're already anticipating the market change,
Oh,
and they're
they
already
are.
part of this calculation.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
So Maria, is it correct to assume that the bonds that we're refinancing today would have been issued within the last 2 or 3 years at an elevated rate? And
They
given
were
the rates have
actually-
come down, that we're now taking advantage of that, or were these?
They even go
issued-
back to 2014. They go as far as back as 2014.
And how much of a spread are we saving in terms of, you said $600,000, so it's
I don't have all the details by the individual issue. All I know is between 500 and 600,000.
so if they were issued in 2014, they're now 10 years old?
Yeah.
And we're refinancing, if they were 30-year debt,
20
we'd
years.
only be now having 20 years on the books at a lower debt service.
It will be 10 years
10 years, okay, so they weren't
because
30,
it's
they were 20 years.
20-year bonds.
Any more questions? Kevin, any questions? There's no more questions. Take it for a vote. All in favor? Against? Abstain? No? Okay.
I could
Thank
give you some good news today, though, too. We just issued bonds today at a really good rate. Our notes were sold at 2.89, and the bonds at 3.26, even lower than last year. So we had a good day.
Councilman Sharp, can you read Resolution TC 30-79, please?
Sure. Resolution TC 30-79, be it resolved that $95,000 is hereby appropriated from the fund balance to 01013800581880, Town Hall Capital Outlay.
Second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. How are you?
Good evening. This bond is was originally going to be bonded, and it was requested that we take it out of the bond and go for a special appropriation.
Can you tell us what this particular one is
This
for?
this particular one is for town hall conference room, for the chairs you're sitting in.
95,000 for chairs?
It's also
Must be
for
comfortable.
also for updating the town council room.
You got a question, Mary?
It's also the Long Hill Room and the Nichols Room. So that brings it up. It was in the, it was in the capital budget, so there's 2 pages on that, which had then gotten removed.
Right up on all of these. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're going to use actually the general fund for this, correct, Maria?
Yes, this is supplementary set of bonding authorization. Back last year, we
Yeah.
requested as a bonding authorization for all these items.
Because it's a one-time purchase.
And it was decided that we should put them through the general fund because there was a, we had a healthy fund balance. And all of these are part of that.
Go ahead, Ann. Go ahead.
So, is there any way that any of this can be used, like, can the leftover ARPA money can we use any of that for some of this stuff if they're one-time costs?
They probably could, but at this point, it's too, I think we still have to go through the authorization for additional projects.
Okay.
Because
That-
through the ARPA process, you approve certain projects, not
Yep.
these.
Okay.
So we would have to go through another approval.
Okay.
We can.
It would have to go,
Yeah,
right, so
It
if
would
this
delay-
doesn't go through, it would have to,
It
but
would
ARPA
del-
has to be, like, those have to be allocated by the end of this
By the end of
calendar
this
year.
year.
End of the calendar year, okay.
And that would delay doing these projects.
Go ahead.
Yeah, this was just, the timing was, it was in the capital plan, Board of Finance removed it out, it was all approved, but then George came back to say since it couldn't be done by July 1st, it would then have to be reapproved. So the Board of Finance had said, we'll agree to that, we'll put it all in. So that's why it ended up coming from that route.
Maria, what's left on the ARPA that's not been, just so we know, that has not been allocated?
400-something thousand. Vicki
Thank
may have
you.
a better number. She may have a better number.
You're very close. I think it's around 355 that hasn't been allocated yet. There's also other departments who have used their allocation and have money left. They didn't spend it all. So we're going to come in and talk about all of that, whether they've suggested, I'll give you an example. The library didn't use all their money because the bids came in lower than what they thought. So they've asked to reallocate for other expenses for the library. So we're going to talk about all that. So there's still, long story short, there's about 355 that hasn't been allocated. So I would just recommend that you pass this now. We don't have to spend it. If we want to talk about using the ARPA money for it, you can when we talk about that next month.
Any other questions on this particular resolution? Okay, no more questions. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Councilman Isaac, can you read Resolution TC-80?
Certainly.
Please.
Yes, Resolution TC 30-80, be it resolved that $25,000 is hereby appropriated from the fund balance to 01022-600-581888 EMS capital outlay.
Second? Any questions? Or you want to tell us about this? No, this one.
This
First,
one
sorry.
is, this one's for the EMS carport. Currently, the person that, the chase car or the car doesn't have, they don't park it in the garage, so if you have a snowy day, it's got to go out and shovel the snow off of the car before he responds to a call. This is so that we could park it inside of a carport so that it's ready to go in an emergency.
Where'd they park the car before? Same place?
Outside,
All this time?
all this time.
Okay. Sorry, anybody else have any questions?
Sorry, I always have a question. These aren't solar, are they, correct? Just regular, okay.
No, it's just a simple carport.
Kevin, you have any questions, or are you all set? Okay. If there's no more questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Abstain? Thank you. Okay. Resolution TC 30-81.
TC 30-81, be it resolved that 70,000 is hereby appropriated to the fund balance to 01030300581888 fleet maintenance capital outlay.
Second? Thank you.
This appropriation is for a fleet maintenance. It's for renovating the fuel pumps. Actually, it's for the design of renovating the fuel pumps. They're quite old and they're very well needed in an emergency.
Questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
Just to clarify, these are the fuel pumps at the maintenance yard, right?
DPW.
The DPW, right? Okay, just want to make sure.
Do you have to pull the fuel tanks out that are there and replace them?
No, the above ground fuel tanks are still there. Will still be above ground.
Oh, they're above ground. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, they have to be replaced also?
I don't believe so.
How old are they?
They're self-contained. So there's a tank within a tank.
Okay, but how old? You don't know how old they are?
I don't know how old they are, but this is strictly for the fueling portion of it. The canopy, the pumps, and that portion.
Okay. Any other questions? No? If there's no other questions, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Abstain? No? Okay, thank you. TC, go ahead.
Resolution TC 30-82, be it resolved that $80,000 is hereby appropriated from the fund balance 01030500581888 Public Works Capital Outlay.
Second? Sorry. Go ahead.
This is for the general maintenance of townwide sidewalks that we have to do every year. There's portions that are falling apart. There's 28 miles of road currently and growing. They need to be maintained.
You guys got any questions? Go ahead, Kevin.
So I assume these are various different fixes. I mean, some replacements, some patching, some. Is it like a hodgepodge of different things that you do on this?
So we try to address the most critical needed ones. We did Booth Hill School on one side of Booth Hill School. We did Churchill Road, part of Jane Ryan, over by Jane Ryan. We try to adjust the more obviously needed fixes, but there's ADA compliance that we need to address. There's a handful of issues that really have to be addressed ongoing.
Go ahead.
One quick follow-up to that. So you mentioned Churchill Road, the new.
Yep.
You're talking about the new sidewalks that were put in going up the hill, right there.
Yep.
And just to remind everybody, that being a state road, we're still responsible for the sidewalk parts of that, right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. The state is only
Responsible for the
curb
road.
to curb.
Okay.
Anything in the shoulder is us.
Okay. Thanks.
You're not going to use that chip and steel stuff, are you? That you put on the road?
No, not in sidewalks, no.
That stuff's awful, by the way.
No, that's,
It's. I got to talk to George about that. It's bad. They did our street, and it's still bad. People are complaining about it. So we'll get to that a different day. Any other questions? There's no other questions. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Abstain? Okay, thank you. Councilman Shively, can you read Resolution TC-83, please?
Certainly, Mr. Chairman. Resolution TC 30-83, be it resolved that $95,000 is hereby appropriated from the fund balance to 01030500522202 Public Works Professional Services.
Second? Thank you. Okay.
This is for the Whitney Trailhead feasibility. The idea here is Tate Road, overwhelmed parking all the time. And at the other end of the trailhead, there's very limited parking to create more parking in the vicinity of the trailhead on Whitney, whether it be in front of Indian Ledge or Park, or what other possibilities that would be workable so that people have more parking and to take some of the strain off of the other parking areas.
Thank you. Questions?
So this is just a feasibility study. It's not the actual construction of a parking lot?
It's not the actual construction. This is a feasibility. There's a lot of different places to go. It's just the beginning.
What are some of the key issues surrounding the feasibility aspect of this? Is it traffic? Is it?
Yeah, well, the graphics and, traffic, if you're familiar with the Whitney Trailhead.
Down here by?
No,
bottom of
the
Churchill?
Whitney end of the trail.
Oh, yeah, all right, yep.
Very limited parking, limited line of sight, a lot of people using it. And, we're actually extending the trail down from Long Hill Green. It's going to be, it has the potential to be a lot more use.
Okay.
And we need to address that sooner.
Okay.
So who exactly do we engage for this? What type of services exactly? Are we talking about engineering services? Are we talking about architectural or whatever? What are we talking about here?
So we're probably, Stantec has been involved in the trail, Long Hill Green restoration and the sidewalk portion of down Whitney. We'll probably combine that together with them.
And then how did the amount, the $95,000, how did that number get thought of? Where does that number come from exactly?
It's a ballpark figure of,
From past experience or from?
Past experience, pretty much.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions? Okay. No other questions. I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Against? Abstain? Thank you. If that's thank you. Thank you. That's it. I'll call for motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. Thank you.
All in favor? Yes.